Good morning. Welcome into Baseball and Coffee. It is November 3rd, 10:02. Season's over, man. Dodgers won the World Series on Saturday night. Obviously, I know we didn't have anything yesterday going on. Also, did any of you guys see me accidentally stream for a few minutes earlier at the beginning? That wasn't my favorite, but yeah, we're back. Good morning, everybody. Ooh, the horror. It's okay. Tease allowed. Tease allowed. No problem. Pleasantly. I'm pleasantly not surprised, but excited to see so many people are here with me as we will go over Game 7. Yes, of course, and we'll talk a little bit about our postseason takeaways and a little bit of how this show is going to work as we head into the winter months. Yeah, we even chatted a bit. Yeah, I was like, damn, did I click start streaming when I meant to just select the broadcast? Yes, I thought that's what happened, but I was wrong. So anyway, I appreciate that. All right, so now that we're in the off season officially, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up for the 35 people that are in here right now. And I'll make a post about this so everybody else can read it. But so the current plan is for Mondays and Fridays to have a guest on and mostly do like long form conversation. Definitely dive into, some baseball stuff from these people's careers, if they were players, or, if not, we'll get into other topics, but be really good conversation. We'll have questions in the chat. So, for example, our first guest will be 1 week from today, Monday, November 10th. It will be the Polar Bear Pete Alonso at 11 a.m. So, I'm going to work on getting a new fall setup for the stream and then a winter setup after that. And people will be able to send questions into my email at baseballandcoffeetheshow@gmail.com. Anything you got for me, anything you got for Pete as well. I also need people to send in ideas and suggestions for what we're going to do on Wednesdays. Wednesdays, there is going to be more of a looser, free-flowing type of live stream. I will check in on, frankly, any topic you guys want to check in on, but if there's certain deep dives that we need to do on Wednesdays, we will, and we'll bounce around quite a bit. So yeah, send those in to the email. The email's in the show notes. So we'll definitely have, we'll do some things differently on Wednesdays, but Mondays and Fridays, expect some good conversations. And next week, I'll give you the early schedule. We'll have Pete on November 10th, then Tuesday's the 11th, and then we'll have Eric Hosmer on November 14th. Is that a Friday? Am I counting my days wrong? If Monday's the 10th, Tuesday's the 11th, Wednesday's the 12th, Thursday the 13th. Okay, yeah. November 14th, Eric Hosmer. So it'll be good. We're going to have good people the whole time. This is an early thought that it seems like Stearns might not be in the Pete Alonso business. I'm not going to ask too much about free agency because players don't really like to talk about that when it's in the air, when it's in the ether. But we're going to talk about everything else, Pete. His at-bats against me, the home run. This home run that Maya is talking about. When he hit that home run off Devin Williams, obviously. So, he means a lot to a lot of people. We'll definitely ask a lot about what he's got going on and some baseball stuff, how he hits the ball so damn hard, things he's working on, everything. We'll do a full deep dive. Also, as you can see, we have started setting up for Christmas around here. We got more wintry themes in the background. We got some mice on some ski lifts. Brett's full speed ahead in the house. How many times have I faced Pete? Well, I guess we can take a quick detour and find that out before he ever even comes on. I want to say it wasn't too many times, maybe 3 or 4 times. He did homer off me to right field in Fenway, which we're going to ask about. But I think maybe 3 or 4 times. I definitely struck him out a few times, so we'll see. Jane went so crazy for Halloween, so just taking that down, had 600 kids come to my candy slide in my garden. Wow, candy slide, that's fantastic. All right, let's look up for the polar bear here. Obviously, I didn't get to face him the last few years because we were on the same team. But faced him a few times. Also some spring training. So, yeah, 1 for 5 with a homer. That's the one hit. But it is a homer. So this is very Ottavino and Pete. Not a ton of hits allowed, but when he did get me, it went over the damn fence. So makes a lot of sense. All right. Let's get into everything from the other day. This was the box score. Now, this was a crazy box score from Game 7 of the World Series. As you can see on the Dodgers side, they found a way to pitch all 4 of their starters. Shohei, Glasnow, Snell, and Yamamoto all appear in Game 7. Robleski also pitched. He also briefly cleared the benches, saying some choice words to Jimenez. And Emmett Sheehan also got in there, and he danced around 2 hits, but was able to get out of there mostly unscathed. On the Jays side, Scherzer, what a performance by Max. 54 pitches, goes 4 1/3. We wondered if he would make it even past 3 innings in this game. Ends up giving him 13 outs in that game. Yes, the balls were hit hard. Yes, he didn't strike out a ton of guys, but he hung in there and he got outs. Varland broke the new record, set a new record with, I believe, his 15th game of the postseason, which was crazy. But he got in there, and he wasn't overexposed, I guess. I kept thinking he was, but he did a nice job his last 2 games. Bassett came in. He allowed the 1 run. Wasn't as sharp. Leadoff walk, which we'll watch, that contributed to a little bit of the comeback. Savage came in. They tried to get 2 innings out of him. Ends up getting clipped for the home run by Muncy. And then Hoffman, who looked like he was going to cruise to the World Series clinching save, ends up giving the home run to Rojas. We'll watch that. That tied the game. Dominguez pitched a clean inning for the most part, 1 hit. And then, Bieber ended up coming in finally and giving up that home run to Will Smith. That was the difference in the game ultimately at the end. Now, this was a crazy game, as we know. Lots of stuff happened. People have been going over it for days. I didn't want to do a stream yesterday. I don't like to stream on Sundays. I have too much going on, but that doesn't mean we can't look at all of it now. It was there's so much to look from. This game was a whole world in and of itself. Okay, would you have a schedule for Wednesdays? Like this week we cover free agents, next week prospects, so on and so forth. It will be a free-for-all for all types of questions. So trying to figure out exactly what this looks like. But I would say if I can get a lead on a really good topic and I can get myself a little time to get situated and set some things up on the iPad, then I would love to dive into one specific topic on, for the majority of a Wednesday, if possible. But I need to know, I need a little direction. I need everybody to help me produce the show, kind of tell me what type of things they want to look at. I discussed a lot of different options with some people, this past week, just spitballing a little bit. Definitely talk about, some of the rosters in each division. We can focus on one division of a week, one division each week, and we can kind of go through what I think the needs are. And what, obviously we get the feedback from the chat and we can go on to there. But also we're going to keep up a little bit with the baseball that is happening right now. For example, like right now, I know if I go over here to my research tool, I can tell you that the standings in the Dominican Winter League right now, Aguilas has gotten off to a heck of a start. The boys from Santiago are 8-1. Everybody else is 500 or worse. Escogido, Toros, Licey, Estrellas, and Gigantes. Not a lot of this matters because this is all just jockeying for seeding for the round-robin round. But this is really good quality baseball that goes on right now. There is Dominican League going on right now. There's also Arizona Fall League going on right now, which was mentioned just now in the chat by Jane. So currently the Scottsdale team is 16-6. I don't know who's on any of these teams. That's the thing. We'd have to look into who's on each of these teams. This is a very interesting league where, you're trying to win, but there's also a lot of just player development, scheduling out of appearances. Guys don't play every day of the week. It's mostly a showcase, and you kind of learn a little bit along the way. So anyway, these are things that will be covered as we go on, but I think we should do Game 7 talk right now. Then we can go in and kind of debrief on some of these other questions. Like, for example, interested in my perspective on the Giants manager. Like, I can do this really quick. Tony Vitello. I've heard nothing but good things about this dude. He was at Missouri when Scherzer was there, so Scherzer's tight with him. He's been around to a lot of different programs. He really turned that Tennessee program from a mediocre SEC program into pretty much the cream of the crop. They did win the national title under him. He's very well spoken. Some would say outspoken, but the way he goes about talking, like, there's a real quality of him on the microphone. You know, I liken this to WWE, right? Like The Rock was obviously the greatest of all time on the microphone, but you know, that's a big skill to have, is kind of how you are able to present things to your players and to your fan base. And I think Tony would be great at that. And I'm curious what adjustments he feels like he's going to have to make going into pro ball from college. It's a huge it's a huge difference. You know, college is played in 3-game bites on the weekends. It's not played in this continuous churn cycle like MLB is. So be curious to see how he adjusts the demands of that. Also, the egos and the personalities and the culture piece. You know, you got Latinos, you got Japanese, you got Americans from all over, you know, different types of places around the country. You know, everything gets injected into a pro clubhouse. You don't get to pick the players. You more or less have to deal with who the front office puts in front of you. So I'll be very curious how it goes. But I'm rooting for him. I love people coming in from non-traditional directions into these jobs. Obviously, I'm looking to be one of those at some point as well. So hoping for big success. It's interesting that Posey, you know, went and got this guy. You know, they had to pay a $4 million buyout to Tennessee. They're paying him $3.5 million, which is pretty good right off the gate for a manager. Most of the time, they lowball managers when they first get the jobs. It takes them a really long time to build up that leverage to get paid. But Tony did it right away, which I think is great. That shows you the power of having leverage in another sector, which was the college sector. And I know the Tennessee fans are really sad he's gone. But I'm curious to see what he brings. You know, by nature, the Giants are going to have to play a lot of gritty ball games. The environment that they play in, it's kind of cold. It lends itself more to a small ball style. And we'll kind of see how that goes. He does have Drew Gilbert, who was one of his players at Tennessee. I also know that they just drafted a player in Tennessee in the first round over there with the Giants. So, look, he's been around baseball a lot. He knows a ton of people. There's always people coming in and out of the college to pro games, but this specific move hasn't been done in a while. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. All right, enough of that. On to Game 7 again, right? So we'll go back over the box score. I'm going to get hyper-focused on this for a minute. I want just to focus on this for a bit, and then we'll keep moving. Yeah, Noah Schultz was the name of the guy who was just drafted in the first round by the Giants out of Tennessee as well. So there's more connections there. All right. So I mentioned the original matchup was Shohei and Scherzer. So let's start there, and let's start with Shohei. Well, to my eye, he was all over the joint. He did not look very comfortable. He did look like he was trying to give it all stuff-wise. So the stuff was back. This was the first thing that I wanted us to watch as we headed into Game 7 on Shohei, was where's the velocity going to be? It was down in his previous performance, and he was on short rest again this time. But I think he was armed with the knowledge that they didn't need him to go the whole way, and he could kind of just let it rip from the beginning. Now, this set up an interesting scenario for me as a pitcher, because you're trying to give everything you have physically, but sometimes when you're really redlining and pushing beyond what your body really wants to do and what's comfortable doing, the command starts to go, and that's what we saw big time. Only 54% first pitch strikes, which is on the low end. He did mix it up a lot better than he had that other game where people looked like they were going to maybe be primed to ambush fastballs. So he switched that up quite a bit, but the command was not there, and we'll see when we go look at the video here in a minute. That ultimately, that's what got him. He just didn't have command of his pitches. And he opened the door big time for the Jays to win this World Series in this Game 7. So let's just go over and watch a little bit of the early going with Shohei here. Springer singles to lead off the game. 3-1 count. See, not in a good count there. Ends up having to give in to George. And really good play by Kike here to keep George to a single. But, you know, just watch the counts. 3-1 count there. Comes back to strike out Lucas on a split. Now, I mentioned that I thought splitter was a huge opportunity for him in this game. And early on, it looked like all my pitch calling and all my expectations were spot on. He went straight to the breaking balls, with Springer. Let me rewind a little bit to the first batter of the game. He goes curveball, sweeper to go 3-0 to George. So I think the game plan was proper. He didn't want to get clipped with fastballs. Gavin Klein is the guy the Giants drafted out of Tennessee. Noah Schultz is the other White Sox lefty prospect. Excuse me. Sorry. So I anticipated lots of curveballs and breaking balls, but the issue is you got to be able to execute them. And I thought he overthrew a lot of them. He got himself into bad counts. I also thought he would try to utilize the splitter to lefties. Since they hadn't seen hardly any of them, I did think the splitter was going to be a big part of his game, and that shows up right here with this first strikeout to Lucas, who he had mostly shown fastballs to. And, you know, he had hit some, he had missed some, but overall fastballs was what Lucas was able to put in play throughout this series. Shohei goes to the split here and gets that strikeout. And then there was this weird play where same kind of deal with the Vlad at bat here. Falls behind him on the slider, falls behind him again, got himself into bad counts. So even though he's able to get out of this first inning with this weird play where he runs into a perfect down and away strike, and then there's the dynamic where Springer stops running and they get to throw him out, strike him out, throw him out, double play, possibly because of another delayed call here. I'm trying to think what Springer was looking at here. So he's running, he's peeking. Maybe he slows down when he sees Vlad start to go to first. And, you know, I had a buddy at home ask me about this a little bit. Why do hitters continue to try to sell the walk when you have runners on base and now you're just confusing them? So that's kind of what happened here. I think you can see it better from the center field cam. Vlad plays it like it's a walk, and that alone might have allowed Springer to stop running, or kind of forces him to stop running because he gets a little confused. But anyway, that was the first inning. So he was already teetering with his command, but the stuff came out great. But the command was weak, and that continued to pop up as he continued through this game. It's a 5-pitch walk to Bichette to lead off the second inning. And like I said, stuff's good, command not so good. This was very apparent early, and I kind of was wondering how long they were going to push Shohei. Obviously, it's Shohei. You want to trust him. You think he's indestructible. But at the same time, the signs were there in this game early for Dave to look at. Here's a hit to Barger. It's another case of a really bad command. Pitch is supposed to be away. Look, target's down and away. He ends up pulling it way in. Barger, pretty good swing here, just in compete mode. And Shohei never really got to get to the second layer of his strategies. Never really got to pitch with count leverage. Never really got in the scenario where he could use his nastiness to his advantage. Was kind of funneled into having to throw strikes because he was always behind the 8 ball. So two guys get on to lead off the second. He was able to wiggle out of it because he did have the good stuff. He gets the pop-up here of Kirk, which was a good pitch riding in on him. And then he gets this fly out from Varsho, which I thought this was a dangerous pitch. He got kind of fortunate that this ball stayed up and was so flat across the zone, 7.5 inches, so this ball stayed very, very flat right to left. And even though this is a breaking ball, Varsho's still under it, still struggling with that top of the zone. But, man, he got lucky. He got away with this pitch. And I'm watching this game live thinking, you know, Shohei's got great velo, but he's getting awfully lucky to this point. Then he gives up a hit to Ernie, because everybody gives up a hit to Ernie. I'm going to make a video on Ernie, all of his postseason at-bats since he set the new record. I mean, and you see how tight his swing is. I mean, he was born to face this Dodgers pitching staff. This is a fastball, 100 miles an hour up above the zone. Look how Clement stays tight on it and just smacks that to the other way. Yeah, Ernie Clement, unbelievable heater this offseason. That's why we're going to make a video on that. I did put a little bow on Vlad. There's a video on my channel of his World Series at-bats. Even in a losing effort, I felt like he deserved it. He had 1,000 OPS in the World Series, and we had already looked at his at-bats for DS and CS. So now I have every postseason at-bat from this playoff run for Vlad Jr. up on the channel. They're all in one playlist if anybody's interested in that. But we're going to do Ernie Clement. It might be a little bit of a longer video because you're talking like 80 or 90 plate appearances, but it's worth it. Most of them are going to be 1 or 2 pitches, and we can learn a little bit from his offensive approach, especially during playoff time. Then Shohei is able to wiggle out of it. He does get finally into a good count and is able to strike out Jimenez with this fastball. Putting a lot of effort in to getting through this. And a lot of times when you let out a scream like this, like Shohei lets out, there's a little bit of a dump there, a little bit of an energy dump. So I think he was aware he didn't look very good in the second inning, but it was still a little bit too little too late, as they did send him back out for the third, and here's how the third went. We'll watch all the pitches of the third inning. All right, second time through the order. I actually think the shrewd move might have been to take Shohei out, although at that point you're kind of thinking in your head, how are you going to get to the finish line, right? It's going to be tough without him giving you at least 3 innings, so I understand why they tried to force it, but he was showing early signs of struggling. Does get ahead 0-2 here on George. 101 away. And you can see the strategy. The strategy is I'm just going to empty the tank physically as much as I can and not worry about distance or, how long I can go in this game. I mean, he really overthrows the shit out of this curveball. Super glove sided into the dirt. And then George gets him on a sweeper here. Nice little swing. But to me, he stopped pitching. All he's doing is throwing at this point. There's no thought process about using the whole part of the plate. There's nothing that's been inside. Everything's been away, away, away. He allowed George's energy to stay leaked out over the outside corner, and that's the only way you're hitting this sweeper, because this is a really good sweeper. It's got negative 20.4 inches of horizontal. It's 85.7. That pitch is going to grade super well, but he kind of stopped throwing. He stopped pitching. He just went to this throwing mode in my mind. So there's the leadoff hit. And then the Blue Jays do what I've been calling for teams to do a lot when you're facing guys like this, which is put a little pressure on him with a bunt, get a guy in scoring position, make him field his position. This would come into play later when Yoshinobu Yamamoto made a great play in a bunt in the 11th inning, which we'll watch, that a lot of people don't talk about, but his defensive ability was huge in that inning. But anyway, make Shohei go run, have to bend down, field the bunt. He kind of gator arms the throw, and you get a guy in scoring position versus a pitcher who's been a little bit erratic. And the strategy works out because they were able to get a free base runner here, because now Doc couldn't resist the open base with Vlad coming up. So a quick intentional walk to Vlad Jr. And that brings up Bo Bichette. And it's a first pitch slider. Kaboom to center. 3-run homer. That looked like that was the step one in finally breaking the Dodgers. 110 at 24 degrees, 442 feet to dead center. Bo gets his moment. He got healthier as the season went on. As the series went on, and he was finally able to have his big swing right here. Let's watch it from the center field cam so you can see the reaction of both of these dudes. Crushed. Shohei's looking. He kind of knows. Hands on the knees. And this is a good photo right here. Bo pimping it. Barger yelling. Shohei, hands on knees. 3-0 Blue Jays. I just felt like he wasn't thinking as much. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. I see a lot of people here in the chat getting in on this, but I just felt like he decided that he was going to go stuff over command, stuff over pitch mix. That's kind of what he could use his energy for. And ultimately, he was teetering, and second time through the order, they got to him. All right, let's see what we got in here. I thought this was one of the first times that Shohei looked like a position player pitching and not the other way around. I would agree. Most of the time, he's such a step ahead mentally on the mound. He's mixing his pitches well. He's not falling into patterns. He's using both sides of the plate. I just thought today he came out with a good game plan, but the command wasn't there. I think probably because he was overthrowing a little bit. And then as the game progressed, Now they had gotten used to his stuff. So second time through, he needed to be a little better than he was the first time through. And unfortunately, the second time through, he threw a lot of hittable pitches and didn't really use his sequencing, I thought, to keep the Blue Jays off the scent. Just kind of pitched the righties away. Everybody was able to lean out over. I mean, even on the Bichette home run, that kind of plays in. He's able to kind of lean out over here in a very comfortable way and take it to center. So he didn't give them any reason to be anything but comfortable up there, and I thought that really played out. So big shot there, and I thought that was, really almost cost the season right there for the Dodgers. What else we got here? Seemed to me like he had most command of heater and no command of breaking balls. Given he's throwing 99-100, do you think there's any way he could have just spammed fastball like DeGrom? The issue is his fastball metric hasn't been that elite lately. It's not quite DeGrom. It's also DeGrom. What makes his thing work is the fastball command. DeGrom lives on that outer corner. He's not afraid to throw the down and away fastball. And, Shohei, when he got the ball to the good locations, like this fastball to Vlad, this is an accident probably, but he dots it down and away. When he gets it into these locations, it's a fine pitch. Unfortunately for him, he threw a lot of balls. Like he wasn't consistent with anything. Let's see his zone rate. So zone rate on the four seam was 58%. That was his highest outside of sweeper, which he only threw not many. How many sweepers did he throw? 12 sweepers. Other than that, he was below average in the zone on everything. Slider, 43%, splitter, 33%, curveball, 50%. But it's also accuracy within the zone, I didn't think was great. Only 21% chase kind of speaks to that. The fact that guys weren't chasing tells you that they had no real reason to chase. He wasn't getting them into counts where they have to protect the plate. They were more sitting in advantage counts for the most part. Even though the first pitch strikes is slightly above 50%, I think his race to 2 strikes was bad. So, you can have 100 miles an hour, but if you're only using one part of the plate or 1 or 2 pitches to a guy, you do lessen your level of effectiveness quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, really, my intuition was correct. Versus righties, he tried to go fastball, sweeper, curveball. Those are his biggest usage. And then versus the lefties, I thought there was an opportunity for splitter, which he tried to do. He threw 21% splitter versus lefties. So I did think that made sense, but ultimately didn't get himself in enough big counts. And it really cost them 3-0, and they had to battle back from there. These numbers seem to suggest fastball was by far the best pitch. I mean, it's showing what he had, but you can't become a one-trick pony. You still have to find a way to get your other pitches in there. I think it kind of hurt him that his zone rate was low on his gyro slider as well as his split. Those are pitches he would have liked to loop in a little bit more. I don't know. I just didn't love some of his count progressions. He also pulled a lot of fastballs. Curious actually on his pitch movement. Didn't really get a good look at that. So if you look at his fastball, he averaged 15 inches of induced vertical during the regular season, 16 in this game, so that's fine. But again, that's not super duper elite. It's fine. It's just not super duper elite. And then the horizontal, same thing. Like it's fine. Like his fastball shape is good, not great, I would say. So that's why it's hard for him to spam it over and over and over again. Especially second time seeing a team in a week and not have them catch up to it. Plus, this team, as we know, is pretty good at hitting velocity. The Blue Jays are. Anyway, so that's my feeling on that. And look, it didn't cost them because they ended up winning the game. But in the moment, it put them a little bit behind the 8 ball. And Doc had to end up putting some pitchers in the game that he probably didn't want to. Did he really want to go back to Robolewski? Did he really want Sheehan to get in this game? I think if he had his druthers, he would have much preferred Ohtani, Glasnow, Snell, and maybe Yamamoto to be the only ones to pitch. Those are by far the 4 that he's trusting the most. On the other side of things, Scherzer. Now, Scherzer, we were curious how that was going to look, how he was going to come out. The velocity was a big part of it. And sure enough, it did show up. So Max came out all piss and vinegar as we expected, and the velocity was there. Averaged 95.2 on the four seam. That's by far his best velocity of the season. First pitch strikes, 67%, which was massive. So he was getting into good counts, which would have been a death sentence had he not been, because they still hit the ball hard off of him. He didn't have any finishing type stuff for them. As you can see, the whiff rate, 19%, very, very weak right here from Max. 19% whiff is not going to cut it. So he had to get ahead. He had to control the count so he could read the batters and give them some pitches to hopefully get some contact outs. And it did work. It did work. It did work to you know, the majority of the extent. I'm trying to see what else we got here. He also mixed up a little bit of his first pitch choices. We had talked about how he had been heavy fastball first pitch. That was still the majority of the offerings that he went to 0-0, but less so than the previous time. There was, you know, 3 sliders, 2 curves, and 3 changeups and a cutter all thrown first pitch. So he didn't get as predictable either, which I thought was important. All right, let's go to the video of the early going here for Scherzer. Single, ground out, fly out, ground out in the first inning. What was that Shohei single? Changeup? Shohei kind of owns Max at the plate. Yeah, he couldn't figure out Shohei at all. But he was able to get some very fortunate contact outs overall. And then also we wanted to know, was he backing up that slider? Perfect location there. Hell of a play by Vlad for an out. Let's not discount the importance of this out. If Vlad doesn't make this play, it's first and third, no outs in the first, and Max might not make it out of the first. So, you know, this defensive play was insane. And when you have such a small margin as this game ended up being, every one of these plays was huge. But I did think Max, one of the big things for him was actually locating that slider down and away. Here's a first pitch out from Freddie. I mean, that's as middle as it gets, and he gets very fortunate here that that's not a home run or a sac fly. So there was some luck on the Blue Jays side early with Max's performance for sure. This is the Mookie at bat. Slider, pulls it off the plate away, and then four seam. Gets him to chop it in the ground. I bet you that was hard hit. Yep, 101.9. So sometimes hard hit can be a little misleading. I mean, this is not the type of trajectory that's going to get a lot of hits. This is Mookie pounding the ball on the ground. But that first inning could have went haywire pretty good. I got to give a lot of credit to Vlad on that diving play. Second inning, Max gets a strikeout of Muncy. That was one of the best pitches that he threw. And I actually think without the execution of the slider the way he ended up having it in this game, he would have not made it through the 4 1/3. He was able to finally get to that location, that glove side down location that's been plaguing him for really a long time. Teoscar got out with a curveball. And you can see the locations, everything away. So, yes, the velocity was up, but this time, in contrast to Ohtani, the velocity being up didn't affect his command. Max came out with good command in this game and was able to execute a lot better, given a little boost in fastball velocity than most guys do. It's definitely been a trend I've noticed more studying this year than I noticed it as a player. Sometimes if a guy stretches for extra velocity or extra velocity seems to come out of nowhere late in the season, it can actually torpedo their command a little bit. It happened with Luke Weaver this year with the Yankees. Start throwing a little bit harder towards the end, and all of a sudden he was over-rotating everything and couldn't get his fastball back in his lanes. Couldn't get any of his pitches back in his lanes. But, you know, combination of better command, better velocity, and also much better luck, as this ball is Dick Middle 2-0-2-0. Edman just misses that. Led to Scherzer doing a pretty damn good job in this game. And in a game that you could tell he really wanted and it meant a lot to him. I loved watching Max walk off the mound when he finally got taken out. You know, very emotional for him. So it was cool to watch that. All right, third inning. Gets Kike out with a curveball. Kind of got lucky here, again, with a bad location. I'll answer this question as I continue to look. We got a question about where I rank this World Series, best World Series in David Tay's lifetime. I would say, man, this one's up there with the 2001 Diamondbacks Yankees. That one definitely stands out. I would say 2016 Cubs Indians was fantastic. That one stands out. Cardinals 2011 Cardinals Rangers really sticks out. So along with those, I would say this is up there as the best ones in my lifetime for sure. Those are the ones that pop into my head right away. All right, he got Rojas swinging with a changeup, and then Ohtani lined out on a changeup. This was another batted ball that kind of went Max's way, as Shohei's right on that, but a great jump by Lucas. 104.4 at 21. So I think in a way, Max pitched pretty well to contact in this game, which is not typically his game. But you know, he kept them to the big part of the park, and there was some batted ball luck for sure. Oh, this one also, 2019 Nats Astros. I have to admit, I didn't watch a ton of this series because I was so heartbroken from us losing in the CS to the Astros. I remember I came back to New York, and I was certainly aware of this series, Nationals and Stros. I know all the road team won every game in this series, so that was a special series. But I didn't watch enough of that. That's probably why it didn't pop into my head. All right, fourth inning. Will Smith double on a first pitch fastball. So this is what we were expecting, with some fastball ambushing off Max. To his credit, he didn't do as much of it this game, because if he did, he might have got more contact like this, as this was nearly a home run. So I've seen 4 pitches that could have been home runs in this game already. Didn't happen, so we're going to give him credit for a good job, but he was playing with a little bit of fire in this game as well. Here's a Freddie single on a fastball. That's smashed through the hole. You know, I thought he did just enough to survive. Velocity was better, slider locations were better. He overall controlled the count a lot better than, you know, his counterpart on the other side. But aren't you guys seeing a ton of danger zone stuff here? Max is lucky that he escaped this whole outing with just the 1 run. This is a 3-2 walk that loaded the bases. And then we got Teoscar, sac fly. Let's see where the slider location is. Much better. I mean, this ball's hit well. Varsho with a hell of a play. How hard the hell's that? That's 109.8. So even though this ball's crushed, the nature of how he makes Teoscar bend for this keeps the launch angle out of the danger zone and keeps it low enough to not be a home run type pitch. If he misses this pitch a little bit more, I mean, I'm talking like right here, this ball's grand slam. Instead, he allows his outstanding outfield defense led by Dalton Varsho to make this play, because he actually executes the slider. And this was big because it only allowed them to get 1 run. Every other runner had to freeze. And now you can kind of wiggle your way out of this without a crooked number, which is exactly what Max does. Edman with a line out on a changeup. See, 2-0 count. Hit hard. Unbelievable play again by Vlad. And he wiggles out of it. I mean, you know, the defense was huge. It really came up clutch for him, and they were even. I'm surprised looking at the video now, going back on it. I'm surprised Max went out for the 5th, but he did, and he was able to get a strikeout on a curveball. Looks like Kike was definitely sitting harder today because he had a hard time with curveballs. So he punches out there, and then Rojas, our hero later in the game, gets a hit here, and this chases Max. So this is Max's last batter of the season. And there's that backup slider that we've been waiting on for a while. Rojas all over that. More on that later, as Hoffman did a similar pitch later. But those were the 2 starters. Obviously, Max comes out on the winning end of that, putting his team in a better position to win, got more outs, gave up less runs. But I think we can see from watching the tape and putting a little more context on it, there was a lot of poor luck driving that performance. And the things that you have to give him credit for are mostly command, in terms of the slider command and getting ahead in the count and having a little more velocity. But you could see the Dodgers were onto him, and they probably picked a good time to get him out of there. All right. Now, from there on, it became a battle of who is available for both sides. Dodgers went to Robleski before going to Glasnow. Now, I mentioned before the game I was a little worried about Glasnow. I did not like his sinker approach, although I felt like when I got a better look at it on the video, I could see that right on right, there's some merit to it. These pitches run to the up and in quadrant right on right and cause a lot of weak contact, and that's kind of how it played out in this outing. Average exit velocity in this outing, 87.5, so pretty weak contact universally. Pretty universally in this game. He was able to get weak enough contact to get his outs. And he did get whiffs, 31% whiff. Majority coming on the slider. Didn't get hardly any whiff on the curveball, only 25% whiff on the curveball, which I thought the curveball would get spammed more. But I was nervous about the sinker, mainly because even in this game, you see 0% whiff. So I was a little worried about that. But it played out. He gave him a good outing. Overall, he played with a little bit of fire. 40% first pitch strikes is sketchy to say the least. But let's go look at a little bit of the tape of Glass, because his bridge work was very important to allow their team to come back. Fourth inning, he gets a line out here from Vlad, and mind you, there was tons of times, and we'll see them continually as we follow this and we track this game. 2-out situations where an extra base hit would have put the game way out of reach for the Blue Jays, and they just didn't do it. Here's opportunity number one, bottom of the fourth, 2-on, 2-out, 3-1 count to Vlad Jr. Gets a sinker right in the happy zone, and then just kind of mishits it out to center. So this kept the Dodgers in the game in the fourth. Only 93.5 on a pitch right down the middle to a guy with 1,000 OPS for the entire postseason. And that was a missed opportunity. Yeah, we can watch the benches clearing incident. We'll get into that right after I go through Glass now. Sorry about that. So I got away with that. Here's a line out on a curveball. Another hard hit ball, and you're seeing the batted ball luck. There was a lot of good at-bats by hitters in this game that they got nothing for on both sides. Bichette line out, Barger strikeout on a curveball. I mentioned that I thought he had a big opportunity with curveball. Didn't throw it as much as I expected, but he did his thing. I was happy to watch how well he pitched. And the fifth inning was relatively clean. The sixth inning was another place where they had opportunity. Sixth inning starts out with an Ernie Clement single, because why not? Ernie Clement gets a freaking hit every time. Just all over that. You cannot throw him a fastball through that upper part of the zone. He's just straight on plane with that. Line drive base hit, then Jimenez with the double. That ended up giving them a little bit more breathing room here, so that was a huge swing. Let's watch this whole at-bat. This was a huge at-bat for Jimenez. This run obviously was huge. They pretend to bunt. Four-seam up, ball two. Four-seam up, ball three. Fastball strike. And then this was smart. They kind of lulled him to sleep. They knew he had to throw strikes. Ernie just takes the free base here, just takes second base for free. Look at the jump. I mean, he's gone before he even throws the ball. And I can relate to this as a pitcher. There's a certain point where you're like, I'm done being distracted by this dude. I have to throw strikes. You know, but look at Ernie over here. He's crow hopping. He's already moving before Glasnow picks up the leg. So he gets the free move to second base, which ended up being important because Glasnow still got to pour in strikes. And then when he throws that double pitch to Jimenez, you know, Ernie's already on second, so he scores easily. I don't understand the pitch call there. You have 3-2 right on left to a hitter who's a low ball hitter, kind of an off-speed, medium-speed pitch hitter, and then you throw him what he wants? I'm a little confused by that. So anyway, that double hurt. He ends up getting out of it with a strikeout and then this line out, which also, this could have been a 5th run. It's a pretty good swing by Lucas there. 1-0-1-5 on a line. You know, doesn't get anything for it, but continuing our theme of some big swings that could have, you know, broken the game further open and didn't. And for some reason, that sinker middle shoot up Vlad again here and put it in the ground. Now, I thought when I watched Vlad's at-bats last night when I was doing his video on his World Series at-bats, I thought that this was more of a function of he just didn't see a lot of right-on-right sinkers. Since the Seattle series, he saw almost none of them, maybe a few from Trinan. But other than that, he hadn't really seen them. And so Glasnow goes to a pitch he hasn't seen yet, and it works out. So actually a good choice there, throwing right-on-right sinkers to Vlad from Glasnow. Even though I was poo-pooing that a little bit earlier, I can see why that worked out. So he ends up being able to go, what was it, 2 1/3? Yeah, 2 1/3, 3 hits, 1 run, 2 strikeouts, no walks. And, you know, gives up the 1 run, but ultimately kept it close enough so the offense could work. Now, there was a little bit of a comment here wanting to go look at Roboleski hitting Jimenez. And this is something that Jimenez has been known to do. I actually have some experience with this, which is lean out over the plate and get hit by the ball on purpose. So take a peek at this. All right, this one he does look like he's trying to get out of the way, but he's been known to do this, kind of linger the hand in there. Hitters have gotten really good at this. This is a strategy perfected by Tim LaCastro and Mark Canna and some others, but it's like you don't really hop out of the way. You kind of keep your body parts in the way and kind of turn like you're getting out of the way because you're supposed to make an effort, and you just kind of leave something there to get hit. And you can see the move actually comes back a little bit. I'm suspicious of Jimenez. I know he gets hit in the hand. Nobody wants to get hit in the hand. But his whole energy as a baseball player is designed to get hit by pitches that are close in, especially when he's on 2 strikes. This is his MO. I'm going to go back to a game here and show you a little something. Mets versus Guardians. It was the day game in 2024, so it's this game. Ottavino on the mound, facing Andres Jimenez. Go for the front door sinker here. And check this out. First move is to get out of the way, but then he sticks the knee back in. You see this? That's intentional, brother. Gets himself on base. So this is part of his game. You know? I mean, this is a horseshit pitch by me, but this is part of Jimenez's game. I've seen him do this a few times. There was one earlier in the year, actually. I want to say it was maybe against the Blue Jays. Maybe it was a year or 2 ago where it's same deal, kind of leaves the body part in there. So that's what led to the bench clearing. I'm going to go back to the game now. Dodgers, Blue Jays, game 7. But I got, you know, I do got receipts. I got receipts. I know what you're about, Mr. Jimenez. I know that you like to get hit by pitches, even though you look like you're not. But Robleski hits him. He curses at him a little bit. Shit gets out of hand. I don't think we get to see the entire bench clearing, unfortunately. Jimenez gives him the face. I'm not going to lie. If a hitter did this to me, I would have said the same thing as Robleski said.
Did you just say you have receipts?
Yeah, did you see me?
No, stop pulling on your face.
I'm sorry. I got an itchy face. I mean, he gives him the immediate, like, what the fuck, man? Throw the ball over the plate. But it's like, bro. This, like, whatever, man. You shouldn't have been standing there. I don't know. I would have had the same reaction as Robleski. To be honest with you. So. I know it hurt, but I don't know, whatever. So anyway, that's what ended up happening. They cleared the benches. Nothing is ever going to happen in a playoff game. You know, that's just how it goes. So, so he was mad about the third pitch of the at bat. Is it this one? Man, even that though. Look at the hand. Look at the hand. You guys see this? It's all part of his plan. Don't let Jimenez fool you. This is what he wants. Who gets out of the way like that? Am I wrong? Am I full of shit? I don't think so. Nobody gets out of the way leaving their hand out there. Come on, brother. All right, so that's kind of the way it went. Now you guys can see it. Yeah, Robolewski didn't have great command. He ended up hitting him. He paid the price. You know, you let a runner on. Ultimately, when you hit a runner, when you hit a batter, you get a base runner. It's not something I ever wanted to do, but you can see he's a little sketchy. He's a little sketchy. You know, it's a big game. He's trying to get on base. I get it. Anyway, so Glasnow, this is on the Dodgers side. Glasnow came in, soaked up 2 1/3. Sheehan came in. He went through the 7th inning, which I thought was important. Strikeout, ground out, single, strikeout. Of course, Clement ends up getting them in the 8th, and then they have to go to Snell. And their backs were majorly against the wall. Majorly against the wall when Snell has to come in this game. I was wondering, as we fast forward to the 8th inning here, I was wondering how this was going to go for Blake Snell. I felt like the baseball gods were surely gonna strike back for his luck talk and his luck comments. But he ends up getting out of a 2-out, nobody on jam in huge fashion to keep him in it. First, it's this line out by Jimenez, goes for the Butcher Boy approach, hits it right to Muncy, which is just insane. This ball goes to anywhere else, and the Blue Jays take a bigger lead. So instead of the baseball gods going after Snell, they actually support him with this play. So line drive out there, and then he comes up clutch with 2 big strikeouts, one of Springer, nasty on the slider, and then one of Schneider, who he's kind of owned except for the curve, except for that first pitch fastball home run in game number 5. Other than that, he's pretty much dominated Schneider. If he can just stay away from the fastball middle in, it's game over. But that was a great job by Snell. Gets 3 quick outs, even though one of them was lucky. That kept them in the game. That kept the Dodgers with a chance, right? Kept it within 1 in that spot, and then they were able to chip away at some of these other guys. Now, Bassett was the first one in. I was actually calling for him to come in in the Varland spot. I thought Varland was overexposed. They should have went straight. They should have went straight to Bassett, in my opinion, because how good he looked. But this was the first time Bassett got a little bit outside of his zone, right? Goes with a 6-pitch walk to Mookie. And then sinker to Muncy, which to me is not the best pitch plan. That ball's right in Muncy's bat path. And he was in a little bit of deep doo-doo. Now, to his credit, he stayed calm, and he made pitches after that. Gets the ground out here by Teoscar. Doesn't get the double play because he takes too long to throw it. And the ball's kind of slow motion coming to him. I can relate to this. This is a funny moment. You know, you're pitching. You get the double play ball you're looking for. But the ball's just like slow motion getting to you. So all you can do is get the 1 out. Anyway, he made some good pitches after that. Gets the ground out. You don't mind the sac fly here because ultimately you're trying to stay away from the big inning and you still have the lead. But he did a good job kind of getting above the barrel of Edman there. Mookie does come in to score on Varsho's throw that's offline. But Bassett had a grindy inning. Kike gets a hit here. Going the other way, which I've been calling for a while. You're going to pitch him away. At some point, you got to take your hit away. But Bassett was finally finally able to make the big pitch here. This is pitch number 26 of the inning. And he ends up jamming Rojas for the out. Now, I think I love the matchup of Bassett versus Rojas. Rojas is clearly looking for a medium speed pitch in the zone to pull, as we saw that hanging slider he pulled before, and then the one he's going to get off Hoffman. This is where you want to pitch Rojas all day long, is right here, up and in, or even top of the zone because he doesn't have a lot of pop. They kind of forgot that as the game went on, but Bassett showed them the way right here with a little sinker to the top of the zone, little choppy swing, makes the play, keeps it within 1 run, but that was the first run he had allowed in a while. Maybe the first run of the postseason, so they were a little bit vulnerable coming out of that. And then they go to Yasavage. Now, we knew Yasavage was a possibility for this game, given how dominant he had been. I think they would have liked to just have 1 inning, but they were clearly looking for the top of the order situation for Yasavage. He comes out, walks Shohei on a 3-1 split, which I didn't love this pitch call here, up 2. Puts the tying run at the plate, and then he was able to get 2 quick outs, and they sent him out there for the 8th. Have a good day. Have a good day, Victoria. Little pop-up on the slider. And then he got Freddie to hit the double play ball on the old backup Trey Yasavage slider. Nice play by Vlad here. Great play, and Vlad showing awesome emotion as he goes with the 3-6-3 double play. Then he comes stomping off the mound here. So great job there, but it all eventually leads to this Muncy home run. Let's watch this at bat from Yasavage to Muncy. First pitch split up top, gets the strike even though it's not. That was big. But I mentioned how he only has 1 of those to play with in at bat, and that's what got him in this at bat. You only have 1 lollipop splitter per at bat. The second one usually gets clipped, and that's what happened. Second lollipop of the at bat, doesn't get it down. Muncy makes him pay, and we've been waiting for Muncy to do something the entire playoffs. It finally shows up in a big spot there, and that got them back within the 1 run. So I thought Yasavage overall, I mean, it's a heroic effort. He's on fumes at this point, but he comes in, ends up getting clipped for the 1 run, and it leads us to the Jeff Hoffman situation. Wow, Rojas was 6 for 12 against Bassett. So he had success versus him in the regular season over the years, but I thought Bassett did a good job right there, kind of showing the boys how you could pitch to Rojas, but the way that he kind of droops out there, not great. And that showed up right here in this at-bat, Hoffman. So we know Hoffman finished the 8th inning with the Tommy Edmer ground out, and then came out of the gate looking good. Strikes out Kike to get within 2 outs of the title. And then there's the Rojas at-bat. So let's watch the whole at-bat and see how he kind of leads him into it. First pitch slider, swing and miss. Really good pitch, but, gets a huge chase on the first pitch. You would love to get that on the 3rd strike. It's not always the best thing ever to get it on the 1st strike because the hitter usually learns from that. But anyway, gets to the 0-1. Back to the slider again. Dirt ball. 4-seam. Down. Non-competitive. Back to the slider, I would guess. Oh, they go sinker here. Good pitch away. I think Rojas has a hard time with good velo, personally. And then there's a 2-2 count. They try to go fastball again. Another foul ball. Definitely late on it. I mean, they're not bad swings, but considering the height of this pitch, to be under it, the fastball's playing at this point. And then he goes slider. Kind of a backed up slider up and in, not a strike. This Blue Jay fan was begging for every pitch throughout the last few innings, which I get it, but that was not a strike. And then finally he throws his worst pitch of his outing, obviously, right here. Little middle in slider. You see the initial move by Rojas to dive down over. And I know you don't want to walk him there, but when you get to 3-2 count, you have to remember in this spot, he's trusting you to throw a strike. You have a little bit more leeway than you think. Also, you've thrown him a ton of sliders. He's seen a ton of sliders in this game. He has not looked good on the fastball yet. He was still late on the fastball. I think fastball in plays. I think fastball up plays. I even think fastball away plays. Certainly not homering on any of those. And in this spot, what can kill you a lot is the homer. Now, on the broadcast, John Smoltz was like already making it a foregone conclusion that Rojas is not going to be able to hit a home run. So you have to get in the zone here and make him earn a hit. I don't disagree with that, but you stay away from the one pitch that he can actually handle, which is a slider down middle that he can bend over and kind of hook into left field. And that's what happened. Very reminiscent of the Rajai Davis home run in a way. You know, the unsung hero, the guy without a lot of power, getting the big home run off the closer in the bottom of the ninth in Game 7 of the World Series. So, you know, I'm tempted to just give a lot of credit to Rojas, of course, but I did think he gave him the one pitch that he could maybe handle. Interesting to watch the Blue Jay dugout reaction to this home run. Not a whole lot of reaction out of Schneider. He watches it and then he looks back. He kind of knows it's gone, but not a lot of reaction at all. On the Dodgers side, there was some big reaction in the dugout. Look at Dave Roberts. His brain is about to melt over what just happened. Look at Dave. And Dave's going to the Hall of Fame now as a manager. One thing I have to say about this game, I have to give a lot of credit to Dave Roberts because he never stopped managing. Putting Pages in the game, which we'll talk about in a second, was massive. Pages ends up making the huge play. And most guys, when the game gets to this level of mustard shit, you're going to stop managing, right, at some point. But he never does. So that's the home run. Look, it's obviously hindsight now. You know, you don't throw the slider. But this is what can happen in a game. And a one-run game is a big difference as a late-inning relief pitcher than any other amount of runs. If you have a 2-run lead, you could give one crap about that home run. And you continue to attack. But when you have the 1-run lead, you know, the count kind of is everything. You're ahead in that at bat, 0-2, 1-2. And once it gets to 3-2, you know, the leverage kind of shifts. The advantage kind of shifts back to the hitter a little bit. He's seen all your pitches. He's seen fastballs. He's seen sliders. One little mistake is going to get him. So, you know, I understand what Smoltz was saying a little bit, but at the same point, there was a pitch there that was the mistake, and it was the hanging slider. So anything but the hanging slider. So that's kind of how I looked at that. And then we're going to talk about the Dave Roberts managing piece now. So 2 things to talk about really quick. Number 1, playing Rojas in general from Game 6 and Game 7 was a savvy move. You know, decided to go a little more defensively, switch it up a little bit. It wasn't getting anything out of Pages for a while. Call didn't look good in the box. So decides to go with a little bit of a different setup for this game. Rojas ended up coming up big. Got a couple big swings in this game. Yep, 2 hits in this game. He had that earlier single off Scherzer and then the home run off Hoffman. Also, we know what he can do on defense, and that came up big in this game as well with the Yamamoto situation with the infield in. So we're going to get into that now. And this is a good point. Dave has made all the mistakes on the biggest stage early in his career, and he's seen a lot. And I think he's learned from it. You know, I think he's learned from it. Don't stop managing. Don't forget about the little edges here and there with the defense. All right, so now it's time to dig into everything that happens from Yamamoto on, which obviously was a million things. So the first thing we have to look at when he comes in the ball game, we got first and second, 1 out in the bottom of the ninth. I mean, the season's on the line, so he immediately goes into double play mode to Kirk, which is what they were trying to do the whole time. But he ends up hitting him here on the second pitch with this sinker. And now the back's up against the wall. Bases loaded, 1 out. Dalton Varsho at the plate. Varsho comes up. Hold on. Varsho comes up. Here is the infield alignment. So this is always an interesting spot. Do you play for the double play or do you play infield in the whole time? Or do you go 5-man infield? Like, there's a lot of different ways you could play this, but they end up kind of trusting the middle infield to read and react to this situation. Here's Miggy Rowe, slightly pulled over. So a ball up the middle, you're relying on Yamamoto to maybe cut it down himself, but anything here is probably game over. And anything to the outfield is probably game over, as we know. So let's watch how Yamamoto progresses through this at bat. He's looking for 3 outcomes: strikeout, ground ball, or fly ball. First pitch, split. Split would be the ground ball that he's looking for. Then he goes to second pitch, split. Pulls it foul. Now four seam. This was just enough to get him off the scent. This was a risky pitch, and it worked out. Why do I say this is a risky pitch? Much more likelihood of getting a four seam up in the air and winning the game here. But he felt like he couldn't go splitter, splitter, splitter. He felt like he had to go four seam at some point to get him off the scent. Saves up one of his best heaters of the whole series, 97-3. Dotted down and away. Really good catch by Will Smith to get to 1-2. And then here's the famous play. It's a split. He does get the ground ball action he's looking for. And we're going to go break down this play in a second. Rojas stumbles, throws home. Will Smith with the extendamundo, and they get the force at home. All right, now we've all seen this play broken down a number of times, but I'm going to do it as well. First thing you need to note here is the lead by IKF. I mean, this is basically a non-existent lead, right? Kian over here on the left side. Now, in the post game, he said that they were told to hug close to the bag in case of the line drive double play. So I don't even have a huge issue with following orders and being close to the bag, but there's other things that I do have issue with. Number one, the timing of his secondary lead. He goes for the hop move. Now, if you watch him, there's a hop that's happening over here. Problem is, this is where I'm watching. The hop needs to happen much sooner. Like, the hop needs to happen while the ball's on the way, not after. Like, his feet come down well after the ball's already hit. So he cost himself a couple feet here of base running opportunity to get to home plate. So, as we know, the play ended up being a game of inches. I mean, there's where the ball's caught. There's where the slide is. Every little bit of distance would have made a difference. So I hated his secondary hop. I thought that was terrible. His lead, obviously, it's too small, given where, like, he's even closer to the bag than Muncy, which is insane. But I can deal with the lead a little bit if you get a little bit of a better secondary here and you anticipate a little better. He's late on that. And then number two, when you're coming into home plate, feet first is the third of three options that I would pick. Option number one, run straight through the base because they're giving you the lane anyway, and theoretically that is faster. Option two is you dive head first. So if there is a replay, which there ended up being in this play, oftentimes when you slide into home plate and you go feet first, your foot kind of bobs up and you're not necessarily making contact with the plate, and it's really hard to get anything to go your way in replay at a home plate situation. But if you dive head first and you touch the plate with your hand, it's usually a lot more clear. So in this play, we don't have the view of it, I don't believe, right now. Yes, we do. You can see Muncy's, Will Smith's foot is off the ground at this moment. Foot up, and then he gets it back down. But also you can see how Kiner Falefa's foot kind of pops up in the air. So if you're not going to run straight through the bag, which would be my number one recommendation, the head first dive would have made the second most sense because you could pancake your hand to the ground, touch home plate, everybody can see it, and you win the game. Instead, he does none of that. He goes feet first, which makes no sense. It's not a takeout situation. It's not an injury situation. And overall, that's kind of the way that I read this. We don't get that view. That would have been fun. But that's the way I read it. I thought ultimately he should have either ran through the base or he should have slid. Here's a good view of it. So you see the foot is off the ground. So let's say IKF slides head first and goes hand down. If he was actually safe here, we would know it. But because there's such a big dust cloud, you see that dust cloud coming through on the slide, and then the foot bobs up, they were never going to be able to overturn this call, and the call in the field was going to stand. I mean, damn, Will Smith with this foot popping up almost really loses the game big time. I know he's trying to make sure he's down, but boy, he should have got anchored a little bit earlier. So anyway, that was opportunity number one. You see the Blue Jays dugout is dying for this to be the last run and for them to win it here. Unfortunately, that's not the way it plays out for them, and they get the out there. And that led to the next play, which is this Ernie Clement ball. Curveball. Smashed. Kike is back there looking like he's trying to make a basket catch. Who knows if he makes it or doesn't make it. But Pages comes from freaking absolute nowhere, which is the center field's job. You need somebody to take control here. I love it. He absolutely bodies Kike and makes the play. And I'm sorry, I'm not sure if this play is getting made any other way besides Pages being in the game. So that's why I wanted to give so much credit to Dave Roberts for not forgetting to continue to manage the game, getting Andy Pages in the game and making this play. Yeah, ball was crushed actually. 100.7. I mean, it's unbelievable. Another 1 mile an hour exit velocity, 2 miles an hour exit velocity. This ball's probably off the wall or over the wall, and the Blue Jays win. So you see on back-to-back pitches, so much opportunity for them to win, and the Dodgers executed. Miguel Rojas, got to give him credit, set his feet, made a great throw to home. Will Smith kept the foot down inevitably, and then on this play, you know, Pages going balls to the wall to make this play. You know, Kike got a terrible jump. Kike looked like he went in and then back. You know, he's looking to make a great play. I'm not going to take anything away from him. But this is how you affect the team's chances of winning despite doing absolutely nothing at the plate, which is what Pages did the entire series. All right, let me get over here for a quick. We got some good action in the chat. IKF's secondary lead ranked at the 366th out of 367th longest lead in the entire World Series, which is a crazy stat to look at. There's been 367 leads in this series. But yeah, man, I know you don't want to get doubled off, but at a certain point, it's a difference of playing to avoid losing and playing to go ahead and take the win. You know, this is like prevent defense versus continuing to pressure the quarterback in football. Ultimately, the game requires you to go ahead and take the win sometimes. Now, there's a question here about why not squeezing. I don't hate a squeeze play, but I don't think Varsho's a great bunter, and God forbid you do a suicide squeeze and you just miss the bunt, and now you would have had a 1-out bases loaded situation, but instead you got a free out there and let them off the hook that way. That would have been scrutinized in a different fashion. I think maybe if you have a really good bunter up there, like an IKF or maybe Ernie Clement, I'm assuming, is a good bunter. Maybe you think about it, but it's all hindsight now. They're expecting Varsho to put the ball in play and for them to win the game there, and they didn't. So Pages ran 128 or 129 feet to catch that ball. So that was amazing, you know? And then, you know, I'm going to do a video on Ernie because I already feel like he's somewhat of a Jays legend. I set the all-time record for most hits in a postseason, and boy, came a millimeter away on the bat from hitting that ball about 103 and off the wall, you know, and ultimately winning the World Series right there with one swing of the bat. But he doesn't do it, and the game continues. And this is where Yamamoto, you know, really, I mean, we knew if he entered this game and they won it, he was probably going to be MVP, and that's exactly the way it played out. He went 1, 2, 3 through the 10th. Jimenez ground out, Springer strikeout. This is the Springer strikeout in the 10th. I mean, just a devastating splitter. I found it amazing that Yamamoto had such good velocity the one day after throwing into the 90s in his pitch count. But he throws a clean 10th, which allows them to take the lead in the 11th on this home run from Will Smith off of Bieber. 2 outs, nobody on, and then we'll watch this at-bat. And what have we said about Will Smith's at-bats in this series? Well, he's got 1 single to right field, but every single other bit of information that he's giving you is that only thing he can do is pull. Pull fastballs in off the plate or pull a breaking ball that leaks middle in. And that's what happens here. Little breaking ball that leaked middle. Will Smith all over it, dead pull, and gets the Dodgers their first lead of the game in the 11th. And when you have Mr. Yamamoto on the mound, you feel pretty good about that. Will Smith pulling the breaking ball out to left. I saw a YouTube video yesterday. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, but we have to recap it. I watched a YouTube video yesterday of Will Smith facing Shane Bieber in a college baseball regional. It was Louisville versus UCSB. And it was really interesting to watch. Will Smith got a couple hits off Bieber, but it's crazy when your matchup goes back probably a decade earlier when you guys were different people, and then it shows up. It shows up in the 11th inning of Game 7 of the World Series. And then in the very end, this is how the game finally ends. We'll go back and look at Yama's usage because it was interesting. But you got to give credit to Vlad. I mean, Vlad with one of the best swings you'll ever see, and one of the best swings of the entire series, fighting off a 97-mile-an-hour fastball up and in for a leadoff double. So Vlad did absolutely everything that you can possibly do to drag his team along. Great defense, great at-bats, and unfortunately Yamamoto was just too good. Now here's a play that I don't think got a lot of attention, but Yamamoto is probably one of the only pitchers in the league that makes this play. There's that bunt from IKF. Yama is all over it, but I want to mention how good of a bunt this was. Look how good this bunt was by IKF. So he did have the bad base running blunder, but he kept playing the game. I mean, this is a perfect bunt. I'm telling you right now, Ottavino's not making this play. A lot of people aren't making this play, but the pursuit of excellence on defense from Japanese pitchers pays off here. Yamamoto's probably fielded more ground balls and more bunts in practice than any American pitcher ever, and look at how quickly he's off the mound. He's already running while the ball's in air. This is Zach Greinke-esque. Throw the slow curveball in the bunt situation, give yourself an extra step off the mound, and then he goes and makes that play. So that was huge because that was an out, and he needed that out to eventually set up this double play. They go ahead and they pitch around Barger this time, and it sets up the final at-bat of the game, which is Kirk. Now, if I'm the Blue Jays, I'm 100% stealing second here. You got to steal second here. They're probably not throwing in fear of throwing the ball away and the game ending anyway. But you have a guy up who's an automatic double play guy if he hits the ball on the ground because of his speed versus a pitcher who's unbelievable at getting ground balls, and they should have been a little more ahead of it in my situation here. First pitch cutter away. He goes for the swing. I don't like the fact that he pulled off this ball. This was a little shocking to me. This was, to me, not a great pitch call by the Dodgers, and I would have loved to see Kirk go the other way. They are holding the runner. So check out this freaking hole right here. You could drive a truck through that. I've said that many times, but that's what I like to say. And it gives you a first pitch cutter away, and instead of going with it, which you've been doing the whole freaking year, you decide to pull off this pitch, and it's strike one. So for me, this was a bad swing by Kirk, and that allowed Yama to get into his bag. Here comes the curveball, 2-speed down for a strike, and then he's able to go to that split, which is perfect because it's either swing and miss or ground ball. Actually, one of his worst splits of the entire season. As you look at it metrically, didn't have any negative vert, didn't really have much movement to it at all, but Kirk's in, protect mode, ends up banging it in the ground, tries to pull another outside pitch. So probably one of the hallmarks of the Blue Jays offense is that they like to hit the ball where it's pitched, and they did not do that in crunch time of this game. So as much credit as I want to give to Yamamoto, and I will, because it's absolutely heroic in what he did, but I thought the Blue Jays had some opportunities here to put even more pressure on the Dodgers. Barger should have 100% been standing on second base, and so the double play wouldn't have been a factor. I think that they should have continued to remind themselves of their hitting fundamentals, hit the ball where it's pitched, and they might have got a few more things to go their way. But I still ultimately feel like the Blue Jays did enough to win this series. I feel bad for the Jays. I know this was a heartbreaking moment for their fans and for their team. And they basically played as long of a season as you can without winning the whole thing. And there's no guarantees about getting back in it. So I think it's really a really difficult thing to swallow, and I get it. I feel like both teams were good enough to be world champions. Unfortunately, only one team can win. And ultimately, the top-heavy superstar nature of the Dodgers, particularly with Yamamoto, is what paid off. You know, signing Yamamoto, having the foresight to sign him to the big deal, without him ever having pitched a day in the big leagues, as Josh Reddick was very vocal in talking about when he got signed, having the foresight and the cojones to go ahead and sign a guy in that situation paid off big time. Without him, they do not win. And I think if you really look at this whole series, it really came down to Yamamoto, Shohei, and some small contributions, around the roster that contributed to the World Series win in this series. But ultimately, I thought the Blue Jays played a better all-around game, had more overall contributors, but it just didn't work. It just didn't work out. Dodgers were the first to 4 wins. Game 3, 18-inning game. Jays could have won that one. And then obviously this one's extra innings. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I would feel if I was a Blue Jay. I feel like they were good enough to win it. Ultimately, you don't get it, and it sucks. But yeah, that's just kind of the way it played out. And if you look at the Jays core, they're all in the mid-20s for the most part. Dodgers are all over 30, and experience showed here. Maybe a little bit, Miggy Rowe on defense, the heads up play was huge. There was times where I thought the Dodger approach worked really well, sitting in the weeds for certain pitches and getting them. Those 3 home runs that they needed in that game, the solo shots, Muncy, Will Smith, as well as Rojas, handling the pitches you can handle. But for the most part, I thought it was very top heavy. I think Yamamoto is the easy pick for MVP. That was such a no-brainer. But yeah, shit. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, man, he was the guy. Yeah, it was just 3, really. Rojas, Yamamoto, maybe Ohtani. Man, I got a lot of questions here. All right. Yeah, he was playing pretty shallow as well, because Kike's trying to set himself up for a throw to the plate. We can go back and watch that one more time. This was the fly out. If you look at the high home, Kike's depth, he's right here. Paez is also quite shallow, I would say. And Teoscar, who I don't know if he pays attention at all on defense, he's kind of deep-ish. He looks like he's a step or two deeper than the others. But yeah, Kike was pretty shallow. So, yeah. Like I said, I had to give Shohei his flowers, 1,200 OPS, so he was big. But really, it was Yamamoto. Let's go look at the... Let's go look at the pitch mix for Yoshi, because it's fascinating. He never really changed what he did. He kept showing you like righties, he kept showing a sprinkling of away. And then he was all inside on these righties to perfection, splitters and fastballs. And then if they would kind of come around to the inside, he would go curveball second level. And then versus the lefties, it was just simply the fact that his splitter was that good versus everybody else. You see his pitch selection in this game versus lefties, 82% split versus lefties. So he really leaned on that. But versus the righties, it was more the same, 43% split, 17 cutter, 17 fastball, 17 curveball, 4% sinker. So the plan versus the righties was start away. That's where those cutters were. Work in. So that's splitters, sinkers, and four-seamers. Then work your way back to the curveball if he speeds them up. Versus lefties, he was just like, you know what? I'll throw a little bit of hard stuff to get you off the scent, but it's mostly splits. I thought it was very impressive that on 0 days rest, his fastball velocity still averaged 97 miles an hour, essentially. So I don't know. Yamamoto's a legend. I did videos on 2 of his starts in the postseason, and I'm thinking of doing one just to tie it all together of his 6 innings in Game 6, and then this was 34 pitches in Game 7, which frankly we've never seen before. We haven't seen anybody come out on 0 days rest and do it. We saw Bumgarner come out after pitching Game 5, come in and pitch 5 innings in Game 7 in the 2015 World Series. Maybe that was 14. Yeah, it was 2014 World Series. But we had never seen anybody go on 0 days rest. So I have to give all the credit in the world to Yamamoto. Big time. We have a lot of talking about bunts in the chat. And like bunt's an option, but bunting is also, I want to point out, bunting is very hard to do. Bunting is very hard to do off the best pitchers in the world. So it's not a foregone conclusion that you're going to put down a great bunt. I just want to say that right out the gate. Will the merch be restocked? Yes. The hats are on the way to me. Once they're on to me, they'll be put on the site, and then those will get sent out, as well as some other stuff. We're going to be doing drops. My wife's in charge of all that. There's a blanket. There's travel coffee container. There's a couple things. So stay tuned for that, and we'll put that all out there. And will I be throwing javelins soon? Don't think I didn't look into this. I've been studying Yoshinobu Yamamoto for 5 years now. I've been aware of him since maybe his first Samomura award in Japan. Obviously the delivery, the size, everything. But he's just really, really, ooh, a tote bag's a good idea. That's a good idea. We'll think about tote bag. We have a bag that's just the bag that you put the gear in, but maybe a tote bag is a good idea. I'll tell my director of product, my wife, about that. Ooh, actually do have a win probability analysis of Yamamoto. This is great. I actually have it on my phone, so I don't think I can put it up on the screen, but I'll show you on here in a second because I saw a screenshot of this on Reddit earlier. Championship win probability added all time in the postseason. Mad Bum is number 2 he's number 2, and Yamamoto was number 3. Now, where's the percentages? Oh, those are the numbers, the 99.7. So the probability added. Mad Bum, yeah, 99.5. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 84.6. So up there in the all-time greats. 4th best ever in terms of championship probability, win probability. Wow, I see through my phone. You can see the pool out there now. Yeah, there's the pool. All right, so that's where he was at. Let's go and let's check into the packet because there's actually a lot of good information in yesterday's packet about this, about tying it all into a bow, and then we'll go from there. This is the famous quote from Rogers Hornsby. People ask me what I do in winter when there's no baseball. I'll tell you what I do. I stare out the window and wait for spring. That's how I feel about it as well. But we're going to be doing it on Baseball and Coffee. There's going to be so much baseball talk on here that you're going to feel like baseball season is still going. 2025 MLB season has concluded with the most dramatic fashion. Epic Game 7. 2026 regular season begins on March 25th and 143 days from now in San Fran, and the World Baseball Classic will begin in Tokyo in 4 months. I'm super juiced for the WBC. It's one of my favorite events in baseball, and maybe be playing in it, maybe won't be playing in it, but either way, I'll be covering it on here on Baseball and Coffee. Whether I'm in it or not, we'll be covering it hardcore. All right, more Game 7 notes. Second longest Game 7 in World Series history by innings, only behind the Senators and the Giants in 1924. It was the 3rd World Series ever to end on a double play, 1947 and 1921. It's not a definite yet, Maya. I think I am, but I'm waiting for the preliminary roster to be released in December, and then from there I'll have a better sense of where I stand amongst the young guys, and then we'll go for there. Yes, Billy, I am having DJ on the show. He is not scheduled yet, but possibly November 21st. Dodgers are just the 3rd team to win a World Series winner-take-all game in which they trailed entering the 9th inning. Teams are 3-33 in that scenario. They joined the 97 Marlins and 01 D-backs. Those were also great World Series as well. 97 Marlins was that Edgar Renteria hit that won the World Series, and 2001 D-backs, we all know the Craig Counsell off of Mariano Rivera. Actually, it was Luis Gonzalez, Craig Counsell scoring. No, Tony Womack scoring. Craig Counsell scored 97. I'm getting them all confused, but those were both walk-off hits. Marathon Series, 146 innings thrown in this World Series, 2nd most ever, behind 147 and 2/3 thrown in 1912, but that was 8 games. Will Smith caught 73 innings in the World Series, which is the most all-time, passes Lou Krieger, 1903, who caught 71 innings. So congrats to Will Smith for the iron legs. And Smith's 11-inning home run was the first extra inning home run ever hit in a winner-take-all World Series game. MVP Yoshinobu Yamamoto is the first pitcher to win 3 games in a single World Series since Randy Johnson in 01. He's the first pitcher ever with three road wins in a World Series. So that's an interesting little stat. How are you going to get 3 road wins? Very hard to do that because you can't pitch in that many successive games unless you're a relief pitcher. He did it anyway. Starts Game 2, starts Game 6, and pitches Game 7, all in Toronto. Unbelievable performance. I want to put a poll up real quick, just out of curiosity, where everybody feels Yoshi ranks right now in terms of top 3 pitchers in baseball. I'm just going to do a quick yes or no. Is Yamamoto the number 1 pitcher in the world, as Shohei says? It's a simple yes or no. because I still think it might be Scooble, but I want to throw this poll up here to see what you guys think, because I do think that in a way, he might have taken the mantle because nobody else had this opportunity, but it's unbelievable what he did in this World Series. All right. He joins Randy Johnson, Harry Brecheen, and Ray Kramer as the only pitchers to win games 6 and 7 in a World Series. First ever to do it on the road. Teams have been 0-42 this postseason when trailing entering the ninth. Dodgers had lost 65 of 67 World Series games in franchise history when entering the ninth prior to that game. And the exception, Kirk Gibson in 1988 and Bill Bevan's no-hit bid in 1947. 3 of the top 12 plays in terms of championship win probability added in MLB history occurred in Saturday's game. The 4th all-time play was Alejandro Kirk's game-ending double play. The 5th all-time was Will Smith's go-ahead home run in the 11th, and the 12th all-time was Miguel Rojas's game-tying home run in the 9th. So that's pretty amazing. Road Warriors. Dodgers became just the 9th team ever to win Games 6 and 7 of the World Series on the road. It had only been done twice in the past 45 years, which was the 19 Nats and the 2016 Cubs. Freddie Freeman made it through the whole World Series, getting on base every game, so he's at an 18-game World Series on base streak. Let's see if he gets some more World Series stuff. Ooh, Brett, we have some stuff in the chat about where the Hanukkah decor is. Don't worry, there'll be Hanukkah decor. What'd you say? It's not Hanukkah yet. Hanukkah comes out on Hanukkah. Mookie Betts is now the first position player to win 4 rings since Jeter and Posada, so he's got 4 rings, which is pretty awesome. And Dave Roberts is the 11th manager to win 3+ World Series titles, so he's definitely going to the Hall of Fame. Hitting is hard. Dodgers hit just 203 in the World Series, the lowest mark by a team that won since the 1966 Orioles. And this is how it felt. It felt like they didn't do a ton offensively, but they did do enough with homers. And I felt pretty good about that. Yeah, he says it's not Christmas yet either, Brett. Christmas is a vibe, whereas Hanukkah's a day, according to Brett. We love Hanukkah as well. It gets 8 crazy nights. But, you know, Christmas, we got a lot of decor to get up. I was digging through the attic all morning, so we're ready. We're getting ready, at least, early this year. We don't want to get caught sleeping this year. We want to get everything up early. Yeah, it's 8 days. Hanukkah's 8 days. It's true. All right. Yeah, Dan's not having it. He says he doesn't know about that. I don't know. He's not a fan of what we're doing. She says if you saw what we were doing, you'd be a fan. All right. Dodgers had a -8 run differential in the World Series. Well, because they got blown out big time in Game 1. I actually think a lot of the stat discrepancy really came from that Game 1 beatdown. Other than that, it was probably a little tighter than it looked. But the Blue Jays did win that Game 1, and they scored 105 runs. That's the only team that ever scored over 100 runs in a World Series in the postseason and did not win the World Series. So, again, it's a little bit of a stupid stat because they had more games to do it in. But either way. Oh, no, he says he's actually definitely a fan of what we're doing. Thanks, Dan. We love you anyway. But we're going to, don't worry, we'll give you a full... We don't forget Hanukkah, trust me. Never, never, never. We are very locked in on our Jewish holidays. All right, I talked about Vlad a little bit in my video, but here was his final slash line for the playoffs. 397, 494, 795, 1289 OPS in 18 games. His 8 home runs and 15 RBIs would have translated to 72 home runs and 135 RBI pace over 162, which is fantastic. Yamamoto earned a win in 9 different months this season. That's a pretty cool stat. That's pretty funny. And these Dodgers artifacts will be part of baseball history forever at the Hall of Fame. Freddie Freeman's Game 3 bat. That was the walk-off homer. Will Klein's Game 3 glove. Man, Will Klein came up huge. A base from the 18-inning game. Dave Roberts' road jersey. Mookie Betts' final out glove. Pretty cool for Mookie that he played such a spectacular shortstop in this game. In this series, when he, looked like that was a little bit of a weakness last year. Came back this year, was unbelievable. I don't believe he won the Gold Glove. I think Mason Wynn won the Gold Glove. That was announced. But Mookie was a finalist. That was impressive in and of itself. Yamamoto's Game 7's cap and Andrew Friedman's championship celebration shirt. He's the GM, if you guys don't know. Actually, he might be the POBO, President of Baseball Ops, which is the coolest title ever. 6th straight season in which a Will Smith wins a World Series. So that's the catcher and the pitcher. Okay. Shohei will presumably join Joe Morgan, 1950, 75, and 76 as the only players to win consecutive league MVP awards while winning consecutive World Series. Yep, that's a lock. Kershaw faced one batter in this World Series. In his final career game on the mound, he induced a ground out from Nathan Lucas to end the 12th inning marathon in Game 3. Now, that was crazy. So I watched Kershaw's last game. He was warming. He was warming up for Yamamoto. I actually think, say Kirk gets out, there was another lefty scenario coming up, right? I think there was. I think there was another lefty scenario coming up. Kershaw might have had a chance to close out this World Series. Who was up after Kirk? Yep, Varsho. So would have Kershaw gotten Varsho? That would have been fascinating. If Kershaw could have came in there and gotten that last out. But we'll settle for a really good moment. His last final moment in big leagues was getting out Nathan Lucas in that 12th inning of that game, which was really cool for Kersh. I really enjoyed that. I love when guys have great final moments. Unlike me, where I just walked a freaking Kerry Carpenter, in the middle of a nothing game in Detroit. I could have went out with a strikeout of Matt Olson the year before, but instead I go out with a walk. So that doesn't make me feel very good, but whatever. Who cares? All right, the quality of play was phenomenal. Easily one of the 3 most memorable games in the MLB Network era, rivaled only by Game 7, 2016, and Game 6, 2011, which was the David Freese game. Ooh, Dan updated to a Hanukkah profile pic. That's sick. I'm loving that. Yeah, so P's saying he would have came in. Yeah, he would have came in. That would have been crazy. That would have been a lot of drama. Imagine that. Win or lose. Wow. Both clubs recorded outs at home plate with the infield in with the championship and the balance. So that's nuts. All right, here's a bow on the Blue Jays season. Blue Jays went from last to first, and they became within 1 out of claiming their first World Series title. 2 outs, actually. There's a lot of love for this team heading into the future. It'll be interesting to see what happens, Jays fans, with your club. Bichette, obviously, is a free agent. Some of the older guys, do you buy into the chemistry they have and kind of try to keep the band together? Do you make more shrewd moves? You probably have to keep going, at least spending money for a little while now that you feel like your window's open. You just signed Vlad to a 14-year, $500 million contract. Regular season 292, 381, 467. That's a 137 WRC plus. That's a freaking solid season, but it wasn't what people were expecting. They were expecting what he did in the postseason, where he had a 253 WRC plus, weighted runs created plus. The only people who were ever ahead of that in the postseason was Barry Bonds and David Freese. So pretty good company there. This is the list. Bonds in 02, Freese in 11, Vlad in 2025. 1 point ahead of Rosarena from 2020. So this has been a question back-to-back days. Do we think Bassett would consider a stint in the pen? I think Bassett would love to be in the pen, but at the same time, I think he's going to get paid to be a starter. So I think somebody will pay him on a 1 or 2 year deal to continue to be a starter at starter money, so he'll probably do that. And they know that they have a fallback option with him. We can go to the pen if need be for a postseason and be a factor. So I don't think he's in full reliever mode. Ultimately, he's probably a starter. And this is kind of the reality that sometimes people are dealing with, grasping through it in their head. This is a good comment. The truth is, most of the time, the miracle run in the playoffs does not lead to a continuous, solidified team. I would agree. It doesn't always translate linearly into this team's on the upward swing. I think these moves are critical that they have to make this offseason if they want to continue to battle. And don't forget that AL East is a gauntlet. Yankees are getting Garrett Cole back next year. Red Sox are on the upswing in my mind. Orioles, if they can figure their pitching out, they still have a lot of that young talent. So just winning the AL East is hard enough. And that's the thing about baseball. You can't put the cart ahead of the horse. You got to get in, and then I do think this Blue Jay team in general is built for playoff success, but you got to get in first. So we will see how it goes next year. Blue Jays' ability to do damage and make contact at the rate they did was a rare feat for a postseason team over the last 15 seasons. They were just the third team in that span of the last 15 years to produce a contact rate of 75% or better and post an OPS of 800 or better in a postseason. The only other teams to do this was the 2021 Red Sox, hey, I was on that team, and the 2018 Astros. That was the overarching morale of their entire season. Instead of just making weak contact and not driving the ball, they brought power and slug to the contact game. Yes, so they're putting the ball in play, but they also had pop, and I think that was kind of the secret sauce. It's a little bit of both. Believing in your ability to do both. We can drive the ball, but we can also have a great two-strike approach, or we can be frustrating for pitchers. Don't become homogenous. Bring a little bit of different stuff to the lineup. You know, for every Vlad, there's a Clement. For every Barger, you know, there's a Lucas, you know. So they had different styles, and I feel like that played really well come playoff time. Hoffman had a fantastic postseason, albeit he gave up the big home run to Rojas, so nobody's going to remember that. But he did have a crazy regular season where he gave up 2 home runs per 9 innings, 11th highest in baseball ever, with at least 50 innings pitched. No, 11th this year. But most home runs allowed in a ninth inning single season since '74. He's only one behind the great Edwin Diaz, who had that really weird year in 2019 when his fastball was a little messed up and he was throwing too many fastballs. But Hoffman, you know, they're signed up for a few years. I expect him to be better next year in the regular season. And then we'll kind of see where it goes from there. But yeah, that's where that ranked. And it's actually a good list to be on, right? Diaz is one of the great all-time closers, as is K-Rod, Francisco Rodriguez. So you can bounce back from that. You can fix your home run problems in 1 year, and Hoffman might be one of the better relievers in baseball next year. Blue Jays had the 5th highest CB tax in 2025, according to Cott's baseball contracts, at $242 million. They came within 1 win of beating the team with the highest, 313 and a third. A good portion of Toronto's lineup and rotation will still be under team control, and that's not even including Barger, Clement, and Schneider. But Bo Bichette will be entering free agency for the first time in his career. Here are the notable contracts for the Jays: Guerrero, Springer, Gosman, Barrios, Santander. They need to get more out of him. Jimenez and Kirk. So they're in a good spot to build, but I think they're going to have to do a little bit more if we're putting our thoughts on the Blue Jays. This is a very important offense, a very important offseason. How are they going to replace Bichette, or are they going to pivot, or what are they going to do with their aging starters? There was a question here about who I prefer, Bassett or Bieber. I think Bieber is going to be out of their price range, frankly, a little bit. I think Bieber's going to get a multi-year deal, some options out there. He's young. He proved his health. I think he might have 3 or 4 year deals out there on the table for him, maybe even more. Bassett, I think you're looking for a shorter stint, and there seems to be a real desire to go back there and continue what they started. So I could see Bassett coming back. Who knows if they'll agree on price, but I could see Bassett maybe coming back. I could see that. Yeah, Bieber's going to free agency guaranteed. He won't be picking up that option because he's in a really good spot heading into free agency, no doubt about it. Definitely. Yeah. You want to see the gold card real quick? I have it right next to me. Boop, boop, boop. Lifetime pass. We'll try to utilize that a little bit next year. All right, what else is here in the packet real quick as we wrap up today? We'll be back on Wednesday for another edition of Bounce Around and figure out what we're going to talk about up until Monday, and then we'll start to have an actual schedule. But gold card's fire, absolute fire. And it looks like Max is going to keep playing baseball. Who knows? Who knows for who? He's been on a lot of teams now, right? Diamondbacks, Tigers, Nats, Mets, Rangers, Blue Jays. That's a lot of teams. Dodgers, that's 7. Will he make it 8? That'll be interesting to see about Scherzer. So there's some stuff in here that we can maybe wait on to keep looking at later, but there was so many great performances in the playoffs this year. Let's get a little quick look at what's coming up in terms of dates as I start to get my head wrapped around this offseason a little bit. November 2nd, which was yesterday, they announced the Gold Gloves. Silver Sluggers are coming up at the end of the week. So it's basically one award after another for a little while. The big awards, November 10th through 13th, those are like MVP, Cy Young, et cetera, et cetera. And then MLB awards, they do an award show now in Vegas. That's a new thing, like all MLB. They used to not do that. Then Heart and Hustle comes out the 20th. And then here's the free agency stuff. So players can begin signing on the 6th. So 3 days from now is when free agency technically opens. Trade market's back open now. And player option decisions have to be on November 6th. So a lot of stuff happens right away after the season ends. Guys are now licking their chops. Who's going to get paid? Who's not going to get paid? Who's going to make certain decisions with their options and whatnot? We'll track all of this. But GM meetings are probably the next big thing coming up, which is November 10th through 13th. And then the qualifying offers come right after that and the non-tenders. And then we have a much better sense of the marketplace. Late January will be the Baseball Hall of Fame. We're going to definitely do some Hall of Fame talk. And then we'll gear up for the WBC. And then we'll get into 2026 more later. But I think that's kind of it for today. Let me get into the chat here for a second before I say goodbye. This has been a nice, almost 2-hour stream the Monday after. So a lot of stuff going on here. What World Series team did the Toronto offense remind you of? They were just so relentless, hitting everything. 6 guys batting over 300. I mean, initially I thought they were like the Kansas City Royals of 2015 with their contact rate and their ability to hit the good pitching, but I think that was incorrect. After talking to Jeremy Guthrie a little bit, he's like, dude, we had no pop on that team outside of Moustakas. He's like, other than that, it was all singles, and like the OPS was really low, and we were just an annoying team to play. He's like, but they were not as good as the Blue Jay team offensively. So looking back on it, in a way, it's sort of like the prime Yankees. Really good at having a mixture throughout the lineup. Some pop, a lot of contact hitting ability, a lot of on-base ability. But in a way, it's hard to compare them to any team. They're not a traditional juggernaut offensively, but they were a little bit of everything. They're not quite 2015 Royals pesky level, but they're somewhere in between. So maybe I have to think about it a little bit more. Tucker's a big question with free agency. I think he's going to go to one of the big clubs. I think the Yankees are going to be in on him. I think the Cubs will still be in on him. I even heard the Dodgers are going to be in on him. So we'll see. Tucker's going to be one of my more fascinating free agents to look at. And we'll definitely think about it. 07 was an incredible offensive team from the Red Sox. That was a team that swept the Rockies in the postseason. They were arguably a better offense than what the Jays had. They were way better in terms of full all-out squad. Pedroia, Lowell, Big Poppy, you name it, they had it. I even believe in Ellsbury at some point. So pretty crazy. And I'll do one more question, and then we'll say good night. We'll say goodbye for today. Who had a better career, Kershaw or Mad Max? I'm on the Kershaw's corner for now, but Max is going to keep going. So he has a chance to add on to it. I think Kershaw has him beat just from a run prevention standpoint. At the end of the day, your job is to give up less runs than everybody else, and that's what Clayton does. He's got almost a 1-run ERA better than Max, although it's way less strikeouts, and they're different careers, and they're both slam dunk Hall of Famers. I give the slight edge to Clayton Kershaw. We never got a full explanation. IKF just said that we don't know who they is, said to stay close at third. So maybe that came from Schneider to Fleablace, then to IKF. I don't know. But either way, he should have had a better time secondary, and I think that was a big deal. All right. That's it for today. I'll be back Wednesday, same time, same place, 10 a.m. for Baseball and Coffee. Nothing on Tuesday. We're not going to be going as often. Maybe there'll be enough demand to do it, but definitely you'll see me on Wednesday. We'll continue to debrief the postseason. This was more of a Game 7 talk, so I'm going to switch the title of this program. But anyway, thanks for having me today. Send me suggestions to that email, baseballandcoffeetheshow@gmail.com, about Wednesdays, about questions for people, potential guests, anything that's on your mind. Send it to me. I read all those emails. I'll respond when I get the chance, and then we'll go from there. Thanks so much for continuing to hang with me on Baseball and Coffee. This will be continuing all off season. And for as long as I'm not employed by a place that doesn't let me do it, we'll be doing it. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.